Chapter 20 Driving While Black. Ramik, medical school. It was a good fight, man, Ramik said to his friend Dax as they drove down the street early one rainy November morning. They had just watched the Mike Tyson Evander Holyfield prize fight and were heading back to Ramik's place. Yeah, I can't believe Holyfield knocked Tyson out. Took him 11 rounds, Ramik replied with a laugh. Bet tomorrow morning he won't even remember he was in a fight. Ramik drove carefully and within the speed limit, always aware of police cars cruising the streets late at night, looking for criminals or likely suspects. While stopped at a red light, they saw 3 police cars parked at the corner. One of the officers looked directly at Ramik. Uh-oh, here it begins, Ramik said quietly to Dax. Here come the boys. The 3 police cars line up in single file, slowly following Ramik's car. Why they sweating us, man? Dax said. We ain't done nothing wrong. Not one thing. It's not about being wrong. It's about being black, Ramik said, anger and regret in his voice. Why do they just assume we're up to no good? Dax asked bleakly. Who knows, Ramik answered as the 3 police officers followed their every turn and stopped. DWB, driving while black, is the newest crime. Don't you know? He looked at the rearview mirror, and none of the cars had on lights or sirens. They just followed, silent vultures in the darkness. Maybe you better stop, Dax suggested. They have nothing on us. You're in medical school. I'm in law school. They're not going to bother us. Ramik sighed and pulled over slowly. At that moment, the last police car in the line pulled in front of Ramik's car, cutting him off. The officer in that car jumped out of his car, gun drawn. The second officer turned on his floodlights and jumped out of his car as well, gun in his hand, ready to fire. Get out of the car, the policeman shouted. Ramik looked at Dax, and they stared at each other in fear. They're going to kill us, man, Dax whispered. Ramik slowly got out of his car, hands raised. We didn't do anything, sir, he said. Shut up, the officer snarled as he rushed over and slammed Ramik against his car. Why didn't you stop? The officer yelled in Ramik's ear as he frisked him. I did stop, Ramik said. Not soon enough, the police officer screamed back. Why are you frisking me? Ramik asked. Just shut up, the officer yelled again. One of the other policemen began searching through Ramik's car. Hey, you can't go through my car like that, Ramik said. Why are you searching my car? The policeman ignored him and popped the trunk. You got any drugs or guns? The policeman asked. Of course not. I'm a medical student, and my friend here is in law school. Aha! Look what I found, one of the officers yelled gleefully from inside Ramik's car. He held up a small fishing knife, about the size of a pencil, which had been in the glove compartment. You're going to jail, medical boy, the policeman said harshly. He snapped on a pair of handcuffs and left Ramik standing in the rain long enough to get soaked. Ramik, angry, embarrassed, and very afraid, was pushed into the back of the police car. Dax was allowed to drive Ramik's car home, but Ramik was taken to the station and charged with interference with a police officer and possession of a deadly weapon. These charges were felonies, and if they remained on his record, he would never be allowed to be a doctor. All of his hard work and sacrifices, as well as the sacrifices of his family, would be forever destroyed. Ramik was released the next morning, but he was upset and could not eat or sleep. It was so unfair. He couldn't believe, after getting so close, that all he had worked for was about to slip away. You ought to file a complaint, man, someone suggested. That was a bogus arrest. Ramik was hesitant, but he knew that he had to get the charges dropped. He found a lawyer. I'll help you out, son, the lawyer promised. I'll see if we can get the charges dropped. I'll talk to the prosecutor and the arresting officer. Ramik felt hopeful, but the lawyer called him back a few days later and told him the policeman refused to drop the charges because a complaint had been filed against him. Ramik reeled in despair. All of Ramik's friends and fellow students in medical school were looking forward to graduation and accepting positions as interns in various hospitals. He couldn't do that. First, he had to clear his name. The trial date was set. Ramik's attorney did not show up. The judge set a new date. Again, Ramik's lawyer did not appear in court. A third trial date was set, and unbelievably, Ramik's lawyer did not bother to come to the courthouse. The judge was livid. Listen, young man, the judge said, your attorney has no respect for you or your well-being. I'm going to set a new trial date, and this case will be tried with or without your lawyer. If I were you, I'd find a new one. Ramik nodded. Through a friendly doctor who had once treated his mother, Ramik found a new lawyer. Once again, he showed up in court wearing a suit and tie and his dreams. God, please help me out of this, Ramik prayed. The trial began, but after a few minutes, the prosecutors asked for a recess. What's the problem? Ramik whispered to his lawyer. The lawyer went to speak to the judge and the prosecutors. He returned to Ramik with a smile on his face. They've lost the evidence, he said triumphantly. You mean my little fishing knife? For the first time in months, Ramik began to feel hopeful. Yes, they can't find it, so the judge has thrown the case out. You're free to go. Ramik whispered a prayer of thanks and hurried out of the courtroom forever. Now he could concentrate on his future. A conversation with Dr. Ramik Hunt. The possibility of losing the dream. Many people have said that I was always in trouble. Looking back, I think I would have to agree with them. But even when I wasn't looking for trouble, it seemed that trouble had no problem finding me. When I got stopped by the police and was arrested, I thought my life was over. All that I had worked for, all that the three of us had fought for together, was about to disappear. And for once, it wasn't my fault. I had done nothing wrong. That's what made the whole situation so frustrating. I could have thrown in the towel and given up, but I didn't. I had too much to lose. Sure, it was hard to concentrate on school during that time, but deep down, I knew I was going to be a doctor, and I had the faith that it was going to work itself out. I didn't have much faith in the system, but I believed in myself. That's what's necessary when hard times come. Resilience. I know it's difficult to hold your head up high when you feel that by doing so, you'll get smacked around, but it's important to stand tall for what you know is right. I think the reason I was still successful was because no matter what trouble I got into, I never gave up on my dreams. I always knew I was going to succeed. Throughout all the adversity, I triumphed when most would have given up. Everybody goes through difficult periods in life.